Bonjour mes amis, je m'appelle Elo and welcome back to our series in French ASMR. This is our fourth installment in this series, so if you are new to it, if you want to, there are 3 former videos that sort of lead up to this one that you're welcome to check out. You don't have to though, you're welcome to also just stay for this video and see what it's about. Just so everyone knows and we're all caught up to speed. The first video was sort of an introduction about myself, my French background, my sort of credentials for even trying to share this information with you. We also talked about greetings, how to say my name is, or to ask someone what their name is. We talked about the French accent symbols, and we also discussed question words. In video 2, which is what I'm going to call the être and avoir video, we learned the 2 major verbs in French, être and avoir, and we also rediscussed the French accent symbols. There were a couple things that I had to clarify on because I slightly misworded them in the first video. I also discussed some study tips dealing with learning a foreign language, particularly French. And we also talked about the difference between definite and indefinite articles, and we talked about those in French as well. In the video just before this one, number 3, that was the partitive article video. We learned the partitive article. We also rediscussed or recapped the definite and indefinite article. We talked about how to say Mr., Mrs., or Ms. when addressing someone. We talked about how to say goodbye and thank you. How are you? And we also reviewed avoir and être again. And we talked about article contractions as well. So as I mentioned at the end of that video, in today's video, I think I'm going to stick with what I was thinking. And we're going to learn some expressions dealing with both être and avoir. So we will go over those verbs again briefly and then actually use them in these expressions. And then we will, well actually first I think we're going to go through the alphabet, because even though I've been speaking to you in French on and off throughout the videos, we never actually went through and learned the alphabet, which seems pretty basic and like you'd want to know. So we will do that first. We might also go through numbers, a few numbers, I'm not sure yet. We'll see. So the plan for today's video generally is to go over the alphabet, maybe a few numbers, être and avoir, and then also to learn some expressions with those. So let's get started. First, I'm going to write out the alphabet on my little whiteboard so that we have a visual as we're going through. Fortunately, the French and English alphabet look exactly the same. There are no different letters, no different symbols. So it looks just like the English alphabet, but each letter is pronounced slightly differently than we would say it in English. So I'm going to come a little closer here. Hopefully you can get this. Okay, so in English we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. In French, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, E, V, W, X, Y, Z. So you can hear that the letters are quite similar, and you could probably guess what most of them were, even if you didn't know any French. So we'll go over those one more time. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Just take a little bit of time. Like I said, they're very, very similar. So if you just spend even once a day, if you listen to a song or watch a short YouTube video where they repeat, or just pop on this and repeat along, you'll get it pretty much in no time. It's not that difficult because it's so similar. So now that we have that out of the way, I thought that it would just be nice for you to have that information in case if you ever have to spell something verbally for someone else. It's kind of an important thing to know, is how to say each letter individually, regardless of what noises they might make or not make when we are speaking them in words and sentences in French. So I think that we have time, so let's go through just numbers 1 through 10, and then we'll move on to our verbs and verb expressions. So again, the numbers don't look different in this language, which to some people might seem obvious, but to others might be unfamiliar information. You just never know. Everyone's at different stages in their life and points in their knowledge. So just for anyone who maybe didn't know, they use the Arabic numbers just like we do. So these are pronounced obviously, or maybe not obviously, quite different than they are in English. And I'm actually not sure that I know how to spell these. So I might need to think about that or look it up in a book real quick. Let me think. Gonna see how many I remember. Neuf. Let me think. Un, deux, trois, quatre. How would you spell cat? I have no idea. Cinq, six. I think this is Spanish 6. I don't think I'm writing that in French. Un, deux, trois, quatre, cinq, six, sept, which I think is like this. Huit, which I know is like this. Neuf, dix. So I think the only ones I don't know how to spell are number 4 and number 6. So I'm going to look those up really quick so that I can fill in the rest of the chart. Let's see here. Hopefully in the back of this book there is a actually it might be in the front, come to think of it. There we go. The table of contents. Les nombres de... Okay, page 14. Ah, here we go. I would have never guessed how to spell this. Quatre, okay. Cinq, six, okay. This is what I was worried about. 6 is actually spelled exactly the same as ours is. So, here we go. These are numbers 1 through 10 in French. And if I had no idea about this language and I looked at these, I would pronounce them much differently than they're actually pronounced. So don't feel stupid if you're shocked by how these sound versus how they're spelled. This is something that I think can be a little jarring and maybe even discouraging or off-putting for people when they're learning a language, is that it's so far from what they expect based on what they know. But if you sort of just give in and entertain yourself with the way that things are outside of your knowledge, it actually becomes very easy and very second nature to look at one of these words and imagine what it would be pronounced like in French, or if you're learning Spanish or German, in one of, the other languages that you're learning that uses our same alphabet, our same letters. So don't be discouraged. I think that these are all very pretty, and again, that's part of the reason why I love the French language, is I just think that it's very elegant and smooth sounding. So just try to enjoy, I guess. Number 1, on. This is a very round, nasal sort of sound. On. And I'm kind of using the back of my tongue to almost stopper up the cavity of my throat back there to create that sort of nasal sound. On. Number 2, do. do. Just the same as saying, do you have that sweatshirt? Do, do. Un, deux, toi. Number 3, toi, toi. Number 4, quatre, cat. See why I had no idea how to spell that? I should remember, but it's hard sometimes to go based off the pronunciation. Quatre. Cinq, cinq. Just like my ship sank, sank. Un, deux, trois, quatre, cinq. Six, six. Almost like cease and desist. Six. Sept, sept. Kind of almost pretend that the P is not there. Like you're saying set that on the table. But instead of having a hard, punchy T, just make it nice and light and gentle. Set. Okay? Number 8 is reet, reet, reet. It's a silent H, but it does sort of influence the letters that you do say. Reet. Number 9, neuf, neuf. And number 10, dix, dix. I know it looks like dix, but it's not dix, it's dix. Okay, so let's say them all once again. Un, deux, trois, quatre, cinq, six, sept, huit, neuf, dix. Good job. Not bad at all. So now we know numbers 1 through 10 and our alphabet pronunciation. With those things out of the way, I think it's a good time for us to step into our recollection. I know it's been quite some time, and I apologize that this next video in the series has been delayed. It's just been a little busy, but we're going to review those verbs first because it has been so long, and for some of you this might be your first video, so in order to keep everyone on the same page and up to speed, we'll just really quick go over those again. Okay? If you'd like more information about these verbs, you can go back and check out the initial lesson for them in the previous videos, as I mentioned earlier. So first, let's do être. Hopefully this marker is visible. It's a little lighter than I thought it was going to be. Okay. Okay. So here is what we call our verb conjugation chart. For the verb être, être, which means to be. This is the verb of being. So, for example, in English, when we say things like I am cold, I am tired, that's how you are. That is the exact thing that we're translating here in French. In its different forms based on what the subject of the sentence would be. So for example, I, you, he or she or one, we, the formal version of you, and they. As you may remember, and I was just sort of simplifying. Because generally when you're writing out a whole bunch of conjugation charts for practice, you don't write all of the different forms. But again, in our previous videos, we did discuss the different forms. But just so y'all remember, there's a masculine and a feminine form for he, she, and they. So, je suis. Je suis, I am. Je suis. Tu es. Tu es. You are. You are. Tu es. Il est, or elle est, or on est. He is. Nous sommes. Nous sommes. We are. Nous sommes. Vous êtes. Vous êtes. This is the formal version of you. So if you're talking to an elder or an unfamiliar person, vous êtes, you are. Ils sont, elles sont. They are. Okay? So there's our quick recap of être, our verb of being. And now I'll do our quick recap of avoir, which is to have. Okay, to have. J'ai. Remember that there would have been an E here to make the je for I, but this is one of those contractions. J'ai. Tu as. Il a. Nous avons. Vous avez. Ils ont. Remember, we have that nice little connecting Z between here. Nous avons, vous avez, ils ont. Okay, and so this is I have, j'ai, I have. You have, tu as, you have. Il a, he has, or elle a, she has. On a, one or it has. Nous avons, we have. Vous avez, formal version of you have. And ils ont, they have, or elles ont. Okay. All right. So let us begin our portion of the lesson that's going to focus on expressions using these two verbs. So let's think, how should we frame this? In every language, there are certain things that we say that don't exactly translate to other languages because they might say it slightly different. Not that we're not all expressing something similar. The point is usually the same, but the delivery might be slightly different. So, for example, in English, we modify our the things that we're talking about before we actually use the noun. So we put our adjectives first. We say the red ball, the red shiny ball, the large red shiny ball. We put almost all of our modifiers, our adjective words, before the thing that they are describing. In many other languages, like Spanish, and kind of like French, French has some rules. Certain modifiers come before and certain ones come after. But for example, in Spanish, you would say like the ball red instead of the red ball. So I say this not because it's what we're talking about, but just because it's an easy way to illustrate that the point is the same, but the delivery might be a little bit different. So every language also has expressions that they use too, which might not be universal across languages. For example, when you ask someone how old they are in Spanish, they will reply, I have a certain number of years. Whereas in English, we say, I am 13 years old, not I have 13 years. So those are the types of expressions that we're going to be discussing today in French. So let's look at some of the ones for être. These are expressions avec, with être. Go back to the green. Okay. Right. I'm going to use a different color to write the English translation so that we're not confused. Okay. So, please keep in mind while we're looking at these that these are not conjugated. This is the infinitive form of the verb, which I think we talked about briefly in one of our previous videos. But this is something important to know in your native language. It helps you, especially when you're trying to learn a foreign language. The infinitive form of a verb is the unconjugated form of the verb, which means it's the verb sort of in its original form before a subject is applied to it. For example, an infinitive form of a verb in English would be to run. To run. To is part of that infinitive form, to run. This is why we see in all of these to be, to be, to be, to be, because être means to be, However, if you wanted to say I run, you see it's not I to run, it's I run. That is your conjugation. You run. He runs. He runs. Those are your conjugations of the infinitive verb to run. So these are not yet conjugated. You couldn't say je être désolé. That doesn't make any sense. I to be happy, or I to be sad, I to be sorry. You wouldn't say it like that. Être is, like we were just looking at, conjugated to mean je suis, I am. Tu es, you, or you are. Il est, he is. Okay? So hopefully that's not too confusing. If it is, stay tuned because I'm going to try to clarify. Être désolé means to be sorry. Être désolé. This extra E that's in the parentheses at the end is because if you are female, then you will need this extra E. When you're writing, I am sorry, je suis désolé. Je suis désolé, I am sorry. As a female, you get that extra E at the end. Doesn't change the pronunciation, but it identifies, the speaker identifies as female. Je suis désolé, I am sorry. In the infinitive form, être désolé, to be sorry. He is sorry. Il est désolé. Okay? Our second one is to be happy. Être heureux. Heureux for male. Heureuse for female. So you would essentially cut the word off right here and use the feminine ending instead. Être contente. Être contente, to be content. Être fâché. I think I'm saying that right, I hope. Être fâché, to be in a hurry. So let's see. I guess I will write a conjugation. Hopefully this makes sense. So these are just 4 of the many expressions using être. So you don't just have to be saying like, I am going to the store, or that's actually a different verb anyway. I'm trying to think. Of something that's not one of these expressions. But there are a number of ways that this verb is going to be used, even in conjugating other verbs. And these expressions sort of fall outside of those rules that you learn. They're just kind of things that you have to memorize separately to be a part of your knowledge base. So like, for example, one of these is even être né, which means to be born. So like, you wouldn't think of that as a statement of being. I wouldn't anyway. I am born. I've never said that before in my life in English because that's not a thing that you say. But if you're saying to be born, like I was born, they use être as their verb for that, if that makes sense. So let's see, as I was saying, je suis désolée. Je suis désolée. This right here is your être part. It's just conjugated. This is your subject. I. Je suis désolée. I'm sorry. I am sorry. Make it male. Tu es content. Tu es content. You are content. You are content. This is your être part. A. That's your subject. Tu. You. You are content. Okay? And you would just go through and do that for any of these. You could conjugate être the way that it's normally conjugated, the same way that we did it on our conjugation chart. And you can just essentially plug your subject and your conjugation in front of the expression word and just make sure that it agrees in gender with your subject. So if it's a female subject, you need to have the extra E, for example, or like with I am happy. This is the masculine and the feminine version of saying he is happy or she is happy. So the top one is the masculine. Il est heureux. Il est heureux. I guess since this H wouldn't really be pronounced. Il est heureux. Il est heureux. Elle est heureuse. Elle est heureuse. She is happy. Elle est heureuse. Okay? So we did to be sorry, to be happy, to be content. There's also, and we kind of learned this word a little bit already because we learned how to say I'm delighted, as in like I'm delighted to meet you, ravi. To be delighted. Être ravi. And what else are we missing? Oh, you know what? I read this wrong. Can't read my own notes, apparently. What I did earlier, être fâché, is not... Am I right? Yeah, okay. I read the wrong line. That means to be angry. I said to be in a hurry. I knew that didn't seem right, but... I'll fix it now. To be in a hurry is être pressé. There are so many birds outside right now. It is insane. I legitimately feel like I'm about to be attacked. They're going crazy over something. Okay, I'm a little freaked out. to be on time. Être à l'heure. Okay, so être ravi, to be delighted. Être fâché, ignore what I said earlier. This means to be angry. Être pressé, to be in a hurry. They were next to each other and I just read the wrong line. To be in a hurry, être pressé. But that should be kind of easy to remember because you can think about being pressed for time, and this word looks like pressed or pressure. So to be in a hurry, être pressé, je suis pressé. I am in a hurry. Être à l'heure. This is our word for like hour. To be on time. To be on time, être à l'heure. Il est à l'heure. Okay? So now let's go over some of our avoir expressions. And again, this is not an extensive list of either one. I'm just sort of picking some of the more prominent examples to show you. Okay. And this is where I think you'll actually get a better example of how these don't quite translate well. The other ones with être might have made a little too much sense to seem strange. So maybe I should have started with the avoir series, but hopefully the point will come across all the same. So the thing with these is that they're using the avoir verb, which, if we remember, means to have. However, they all still say to be, because that's what we would say in English. We would say, I am hot, I am cold, I am sleepy. We would use the same verb that we were just using, our être verb, to express just about all of these. However, in French, these are all avoir expressions. So really it's I have hot, I have cold, I have sleepy, if you were to directly translate it. But that's not what the intention is. It just means the same thing, but is said differently. So avoir chaud, to be hot. So en été, in summer, j'ai chaud, I am hot. Okay. Avoir froid, to be cold. I have cold. En hiver, in winter, j'ai froid, or tu as froid. Okay, you are cold. I am cold. Avoir faim, faim, to be hungry. I have hunger. J'ai faim après travail. After working, I'm hungry. Avoir sommeil. This is to be sleepy. And avoir peur de, to be afraid of. So if you're afraid of snakes, j'ai peur des serpents. I'm scared of snakes. So this is what's being conjugated, is the avoir. You change into your subject and your conjugated verb. I am hot, I am cold, I am hungry, I am sleepy, etc. Okay? And unfortunately, these expressions are one of those things that you kind of just have to memorize the list of, or learn sort of by accident, by saying the wrong thing and having someone correct you, which I'm sure could actually make for pretty good ASMR sometimes, because I know for me, one of the things that I enjoy, or can be a little extra triggered by, I guess, is when I'm listening to people speak in English with a sort of broken accent, and they maybe say some things slightly different, even though I still understand what they're saying. I think it would be similar in French if I were to accidentally say je suis chaud, like I am hot. I don't see why a French speaking native wouldn't understand what I'm saying. I think they would still get it, but they would probably pretty quickly tell me like, non, j'ai chaud. I am hot. It's avoir verb, non-être verb. So those are just something to memorize. And if any of you have any interest in seeing an extended list, I can probably create one and post it somewhere on my YouTube channel or something, or make a link to one through Instagram or Twitter or something, to show all of those different expressions. For now, I just don't want to really overload you. I kind of wanted to show the point without having to go too in depth, just to get the idea. My purpose in showing this is because next time I think I'm going to start showing the first level, I guess, of verbs, like the ER verbs that are regular, meaning that when they're conjugated, they're all conjugated with the same endings, which makes it easy to remember which verbs act like that, so that you can say more things, essentially, in the language without being concerned that you're saying it wrong. So the reason why I wanted to get expressions in first a little bit is just to lay down the expectation that it's not always going to be a direct translation, and certain things that you might want to say are part of these expression phrases, which essentially means that even if it doesn't fit the rules, this is how it is. So just so you're aware, there are certain expressions with these two major verbs especially that may not follow the rules completely or fit what you anticipate. However, there are a limited number. Even if it's a lot, it's still a limited number of these types of expressions, and most other situations follow what you'd expect with these verbs. So trying to take it still kind of slow. I don't want anyone to feel very discouraged. So I think maybe next time, along with doing those sort of ER verbs, discussing verbs a little bit more and adding some verbs on top of the two that we already know, I'll probably dive a little bit deeper into numbers and maybe days of the week and months for our vocab. So hopefully this lesson, I know, is maybe a little more scattered than the previous ones, just because the information that we're going over is a little rule-less. It's not as tidy as some of the other lessons, but you can't really put rules on idioms. They just are what they are in those languages. So for now, I'm going to say goodbye and plan to see you in my next video, which, as you can tell, I already kind of have mapped out, so it shouldn't be as long of a wait between. Part of why I've been slow to create the next video in this series is just out of indecision about what is the best order to present this information and how, on top of just being very tight on time. I don't always have a whole lot of time to plan out a full teaching lesson. So this time should be a little bit different though. I'm hoping to create the next video in this series quite soon. So for now, au revoir. I hope that you enjoyed and are feeling nice and relaxed and sleepy. And I will see you in my next video.